We talk about it every day and we don't walk the talk. So the fact that we have actually a really robust, consultatively designed action plan with the financing also in it really gives me hope as the UN, head of the UN here, also overseeing Seychelles, that really we will make progress. I don't need to mention that, my predecessors have already talked about this, how important circular economies, especially for small island countries. We have limited natural resources. We are vulnerable to climate change. And by the way, you're lucky, those of you who flew in here. This is actually a very rainy season. We had Cyclone Bella last year, right? Airports were closed. So timing-wise, we're very lucky, we're having great weather. But at the same time, we're also having dry weather. We're very vulnerable in this sense. By transitioning to circular economy, these countries can really reduce dependency on external resources, minimize waste, enhance environmental sustainability, which is crucial for their long-term resilience agenda. Ultimately, it enhances resilience by reducing dependence also on strategic imports and fostering self-sufficiency. You will all agree that our current take-make-dispose approach to production and consumption is unsustainable. This inefficient model is pushing our planet to the brink, driving the climate crisis and depleting the valuable necessary resources to support thriving communities in the future. So this really requires a transformative shift. A shift that puts systems in place, that is more a systems approach, that places sustainability and views waste as a valuable input. My colleagues have also mentioned, if you take the Indian Ocean, the estimate is that 15 million tons of plastic makes its way into the Indian Ocean each year, contaminating it with 1 trillion pieces of plastic and making it really the world's second most polluted ocean after the North Pacific. But it also means that everything that we eat, the fishes in the ocean, they have plastic inside them. We eat those fish. That means also plastic enters our body. So it's a whole cycle, right? So this is something we really need to tackle, how to be more, coherent in the way we design our action plan so that we really leverage the opportunities of working together. If you really want a transformative shift, we're not going to do it just through this action plan. This action plan requires that you reach out and work with others. This action plan will require that you look at opportunity in terms of looking at systems, integration, intersectionality, and you build it on data. One of the things that I've seen with action plan is the whole issue of monitoring. I think this is really, I'm sure that in the action plan, monitoring is something that has really been anchored. And one of the things that also I will say, because I looked up Seychelles and Mauritius, the governments always complain about how data, and I say this because we had Abbas regionally. All of you are familiar with Abbas because you're all work in island countries. The lack of data means that we're not able to tell a story. Island countries are not able to tell a story about how vulnerable we are. So I think these are also considerations that we need to ensure we talk about going forward. I just, on reflection, because we have about, as Nasim just pointed out, we have 24 UN agencies who work in the sub-region. And of course, we have direct partnership both with AU and IOC on a number of pillars. And of course, SEIA has a great role to play in terms of knowledge brokering, knowledge sharing. And this is what makes us learn and piggyback and leapfrog from each other's experience. So it's really a great opportunity that, this validation workshop has been organized under the aegis of the 3 sub-regional and regional entities who really have a big role to play in terms of knowledge brokering, in terms of bringing you together to share ideas, but also in fostering innovation. And a small reflection I would say is that, because the UN here has worked on a number of key documents, for example in Mauritius, with support from UNEP, we designed the Mauritius Circular Economy Roadmap last year. Equally, we have worked in Seychelles in finalizing the Circular Economy Roadmap for Seychelles. So there's a lot of policy work we do. At the end of the day, the success of this depends on how we partner up with you. You know, the collaboration is really important, right? In terms of taking, as I said earlier, you know, words to action. And I would just like to also encourage you going forward. I have not read the action plan, so you will excuse me. I would just want to encourage you to see this also as an opportunity for operationalizing the Antigua and Barbuda action plan. You know, I think this should be really high on our radar in everything we do. We have the Samoa pathway. Now it's replaced by the Abbas. We have only 10 years. So take this also as an opportunity to make a very strong link with that. And also, one of the things that we at the UN have been really focusing on in supporting countries is the issue of waste management and resource recovery. Investing in technology and processes that recover value from waste, such as recycling, upcycling and converting waste to energy. Which also, as I said before, you know, reduces the dependency on imports. Sustainable tourism is a big area, backbone for most of the SIDS countries, and is really a high player here, right? High priority for most countries here. So encouraging circularity approach in tourism can lead to really resource integrity, and also the creation of local businesses, new jobs. You know, these are all areas of opportunities. As Raj said, look at DEFI and Gulo de Tondamont. These then lead to opportunities. So I think these are areas that we really need to look at. Promoting eco-design, innovation, cultural values. You know, we always forget to make that link. So I think also try to also look at that. And ensuring products are durable, reusable, recyclable. And finally, finance is really the key. I would say financing and institutional capacities. If you don't have these in place, the best strategy, the best roadmap is not going to work. I've worked in over 12 countries, 6 in Asia and 6 in Africa, and I've seen no dearth of amazing roadmaps, no dearth of amazing strategies, and the thing that prevents it from reaching its ambition is institutional capacities as well as financing. And in terms of financing, you know, like Seychelles and Mauritius, there's a lot of innovation actually when it comes to financing. You know, one of the things that we can look at is how to de-risk private sector engagement to ensure that we're able to crowd in investments. And these can take the forms of frameworks that encourage FTIs, allow local business to adopt circular practices, tax breaks, tax incentives, subsidies, grants, green entrepreneurship. Blue bonds, green bond, SDG bonds, you know, these are also aspects that actually countries like Seychelles and Mauritius has experience in. So leverage this in terms of knowledge sharing as well. And finally, I guess I should stop here by thanking all the organizers and dear participants for allowing me to say a few words for this 2-day workshop. And with these words, I thank you all, wish you all a very fruitful discussion, and declare the workshop open. Thank you.